So I'm watching the news blow up yesterday. There's all this crazy news after Rudy Giuliani. And I realized the only way to watch the news is you have to translate the news from Democrat into English. Okay, they're speaking Democrat, but if you translate it into English, you can start to understand what they're saying. And this is, I'm not kidding about this. The news is all Democrat. Yeah, there's Fox. We all know there's Fox. And that's it. Everything else you're watching on TV is actually in Democrat. In fact, you should be able to have a button that you press that just plays the English version as subtitles underneath. So, you have like the guy is saying, Adam Schiff comes on and says there's evidence of collusion, but I can't show it to you because you're secret. And across the bottom, it'll translate Democrat into English. We have no evidence of collusion. Nothing is there. Also, I wasn't even kidding in that opening about stories about the future, right? That things like, there'll be a blue wave in the midterms or, it just translates into we're Democrats, so we hope there'll be a blue wave. Just say that. Just translate the news from Democrat into English. Mueller may subpoena Trump. It's like we hope Mueller will subpoena Trump. We would like Mueller to subpoena Trump. That's everything. If they have Michael Avenatti, this Michael Avenatti, that guy who was the lawyer. Remember when they did the White House Correspondents' Dinner? They actually interviewed him on the red carpet and said he was a big star. You know why he's a big star at CNN? CNN has had him on 59 times over the past 2 months. That is at least once a day. Michael Avenatti is on. That is because any news about Stormy Daniels, if you want to translate for that from Democrat into English, it translates into the Russian collusion thing is not working out for us. True about obstruction of justice, too. How can you obstruct justice if they're investigating a case that didn't exist in the first place? So when they say, Stormy Daniels, the minute they say that, Stormy Daniels, just across the bottom is Russian collusion not working out. So we're going with the sex scandal, So yesterday, this blows up because Rudy Giuliani was the greatest mayor of New York with the possible exception of LaGuardia. Okay, LaGuardia and Rudy Giuliani were the two greatest mayors of New York. The change that Rudy Giuliani wreaked on that city from a cesspit of crime and filth and dirt was unbelievable, with the New York Times hammering him as a racist every single day. When, at the end, when the 9/11 happened and he became America's mayor because he was so brave and so put together and so calm and cool, but also, grave and understood what was going on. And the New York Times was saying things like, well, he's redeemed himself, like he totally transformed that city. However, Rudy Giuliani is out of his mind. I mean, he is nuts. I remember the first time I saw him, I was a newsman in New York, and he walked in, and he was a U.S. attorney. He was a prosecutor, and I was going to make a joke. I was in the newsroom, and I was going to shout, like, hey, guys, hide the cocaine. The prosecutor is here. And I took one look at him, and I thought, I'm not going to make a joke about this guy, because he would put me away for, like 40 years, just because I was there. Yeah, let's convict him. He broke up the mafia. He destroyed the mafia in New York. He really did. He was an unbelievable guy, but he is a kooky guy. There is a screw loose in that guy's head. So he goes on Sean Hannity. And remember, there's this $130,000 that lawyer Michael Cohen is supposed to have paid to Stormy Daniels to keep her quiet about having sex with Donald Trump. Not that that's worked, apparently. She doesn't talk about, she's making an entire career out of having had sex with Donald Trump. But they pay her $130,000. Now, this is a problem because Michael Cohen, they have wondered aloud if Cohen got a home loan to pay out this money, or if the money can be traced back to the Trump campaign, in which case it becomes a misuse of campaign funds, which can be a crime, okay? So Rudy Giuliani says nothing to worry about, and he drops this bombshell on Sean, who looks like he just got hit by a train.
That money was not campaign money. Sorry, I'm giving you a fact now that you don't know. It's not campaign money. No campaign finance violation. So
they funneled it through the law firm.
Funneled through the law firm, and the president repaid it.
Oh, I didn't know he did.
Yeah.
There's no campaign finance law.
Zero.
So the president,
just like Sean.
So this decision was made by
everybody. Everybody was nervous about this from the very beginning. I wasn't. I knew how much money Donald Trump put into that campaign. I said, 130,000. He's going to do a couple of checks for 130,000. When I heard Cohen's retainer of 35,000, when he was doing no work for the president, I said, but that's how he's repaying. That's how he's repaying it, with a little profit and a little margin for paying taxes for Michael.
But do you know the president didn't know about this? I believe that's what
he didn't
Michael
know
had
about
said.
the specifics of it, as far as I know. But he did know about the general arrangement that Michael would take care of things like this, like I take care of things like this for my clients.
It's because famous people screw around on their wives and the lawyers shut them up. That's what they do. They pay them off. So you could see Sean just looked like, he really did look like a train hit him because Donald Trump had said he knew nothing about this. There's no affair. In fact, Trump tweeted out, Giuliani later on this morning went on Fox and Friends and said, well, he didn't know about it. It was just a fund that, he had a retainer essentially. So here's Trump's tweets about this. Mr. Cohen, an attorney, received a monthly retainer, not from the campaign and having nothing to do with the campaign, from which he entered into, through reimbursement, a private contract between two parties known as a non-disclosure agreement, or NDA. These agreements are there's like three tweets. These agreements are very common among celebrities and people of wealth. In this case, it is in full force and effect and will be used in arbitration for damages against Miss Clifford, Stormy Daniels. The agreement was used to stop the false and extortionist accusations made by her about an affair, despite already having signed a detailed letter admitting that there was no affair. Prior to its violation by Ms. Clifford and her attorney, this was a private agreement. Money from the campaign or campaign contributions played no role in this transaction. He spells roll R-O-L-L. I'm not sure what that means, whether he thought he was being rolled or he had this on a roll or something, but it's R-O-L-E, it's supposed to be. Anyway, so this is huge. Oh my gosh, he's blown up everything. And I'm sure the White House was just like falling over themselves, because he said, I didn't know about this, and he's dialed it back and all this. But what Giuliani is thinking is, so there's no crime. I mean, so a billionaire playboy, banged the porn star, paid her off, which is what billionaire playboys did, but he wasn't violating the law. And that's the only thing that matters to Rudy, who is now on his legal team. Let me just play something else, though, because just to translate the news from Democrat into English, okay? Because remember, everything about Stormy Daniels is about the fact that the Russian collusion thing didn't work out, because we know Trump did this stuff. We know, if it wasn't Stormy Daniels, it was somebody else. We know that he is not like Mr. Good Husband. He divorced one of his wives. He told one of his wives he was getting a divorce in the New York Post. This is not a teddy bear. Obviously, we all knew that, when we voted for him. So there's nothing shocking there at all. So, but let me just play something else, because Hillary Clinton is making the endless Why I Lost tour. Whose fault is it? I think I am now the only person in America who has not been blamed for Hillary Clinton's loss. Now, I want you got to listen to this carefully, because I want you to remember this. The big story yesterday is Rudy Giuliani puts his foot in his mouth and says, well, Trump did know about this. I mean, is there anybody out there who thought that Trump didn't know about any of this? Is there anybody out there who thinks he didn't sleep with her? I mean, look, I'm just saying, Trump says it's not true. Trump can say anything he wants, but this is who he is. This is what he did. He was a billionaire playboy. As I've said before, if he didn't sleep with her, he should be called up before the Billionaire Playboy, Association and answer for why he was not doing his job as a billionaire playboy. Let's compare that to what Hillary Clinton said about the Democrat Party. Remember, everybody's to blame for her loss except for her. But here, this is an amazing clip. Just play this.
You may be the only presidential candidate since World War II that actually had to stand up and say, I am a capitalist. And you did. Did it hurt you?
Probably. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to know. But I mean, if you're in the Iowa caucuses and 41% of Democrats are socialists or self-described socialists, and I'm asked, are you a capitalist? And I say yes, but with appropriate regulation and appropriate accountability, that probably gets lost in the, oh my gosh, she's a capitalist.
So the Democrat Party, this is the former presidential candidate. You may remember that she ran for president. She was the head of the Democratic Party, the head of their ticket. She had to make excuses for being a capitalist to the Democrat Party because it's filled with socialists. Now, just think about this for a minute. We're translating the news from Democrat into English, right? The news is Stormy Daniels paid off, quiet, they had sex. Okay, that's the news. Hillary Clinton is sitting there telling you that at least a third of the Democrat Party is socialist. They're commies. They're the people in Venezuela who got Venezuelans to eat cats. That's who they are. They're the people who created wonderful places like the Soviet Union. That's what we're comparing. So they wonder why we don't care about their scandals. I mean, one scandal after another is because every scandal is about an individual doing something he may or may not have done that maybe he shouldn't have done. Every scandal is about an individual, their entire party. This is their entire party. This is who they are. Porn star commies. Who would you vote for? Who are you going to vote for? And don't say you'd stay home either, because listen, that is really who they are. They actually are. I mean, here's another one. Cecile Richards, is that her name? Former head of Planned Parenthood. You know how they say that some serial killers just stop killing after a while? The Golden State Killer they recently caught, and they just said after a while something switches off and Jack the Ripper just disappeared. So Cecile Richards has left Planned Parenthood. Okay, that was kind of a joke. But that's her career. That's her career, exterminating unborn children. That is her career. She is welcomed by the left-wing press, okay? Listen to this. This is a montage from our friends at Newsbusters.
This book, I think, will broaden people's understanding about your activist chops. This makes me think you're going to run for office. Are you going to run for office?
I don't have any plans to run for office, but I learned early on never to say never.
Women running for office, does that mean Cecile Richards running for office?
Well, you never say never.
Is there elective politics in your future?
Who knows? Never say never.
A lot of people are wondering if you're stepping away from Planned Parenthood to get into elective politics yourself. Is that something that's on your mind? Not this fall, perhaps, but down the road?
Well, never say never, Willie.
Is there politics in your future?
I don't know what's next.
Do you have an interest in running for office at some point?
Nothing that I really looked at.
In order to stand up for something, you've got to fight and you've got to face adversity. You've done it for your whole career. And right now we're seeing a record number of women run for election.
That's right.
Are you going to be one of those women next?
I don't know.
So here's a woman, her entire resume is that she kills unborn babies. That's her resume. And everybody in the left-wing news sphere is saying to her, so you kill babies, isn't that something we want you to be president, basically, This is who they are, right? So if we translate the news from Democrat into English, we get, you shouldn't be president because you slept with a porn star, but you should be president if you kill babies. That's basically their moral standard that they're living in. By the way, I'm being very harsh on Cecilia Richards. She did have a way with unborn babies. We actually have a video of that here.
Help me!
Come back here. You're not a human being.
I am a human being. For crying out loud, look at me.
No one can see you. Hold still, you piece of tissue, you.
Help! Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter!
Who did that? That's a terrible bit. Oh, that was me. And actually, it's Jeremy, right? It's the God King of the Daily Wire actually came down to earth to do that voice, that kid's voice. Anyway, again, terrible scandal that Donald Trump paid off a porn star. I get it. That in the old days, before Bill Clinton, before the left convinced us that it was none of our business who the president slept with, that would have been a terrible scandal. I mean, before Bill Clinton, that would have ended any presidency if it came to light. After Bill Clinton, the entire press, all the feminists, they explained to us, no, it's really none of your business who the president sleeps with. So now we know, not a big scandal. You know what's a big scandal? Running a woman for office whose only credit is that she exterminates unborn babies. That's a scandal. The fact that a third of the Iowa caucus, according to the former presidential candidate of that party, is socialist, self-described socialist, that's a scandal. That is what we are really dealing with. And I have to say, like I said, everything about Stormy Daniels just translates to me into we got nothing on the Russian collusion, which also is true of all this stuff about obstruction of justice. I am really glad that Donald Trump is lawyering up with real people now. I mean, Rudy is a kook, but he is a real criminal attorney. And he's got this new guy who defended Clinton in the impeachment trials, because this is not something you want to kid around with. There was an organization, I think it was based in Britain, that would free innocent people from prison, that would overturn, its work was to find people who had been convicted wrongfully. And they were asked, well, how does it happen that somebody gets convicted wrongfully? The police are not out to do that. And they said, well, what happens is he gets called in, he wants to be honest, and either he doesn't ask for a lawyer, doesn't get a lawyer, or he calls his pal, the lawyer, he calls his lawyer, and he doesn't understand that it's a specialty dealing with criminal cases. You need a criminal lawyer. And in Donald Trump's position, he needs a guy who aggressively knows the ins and outs of the Constitution, constitutional law, separation of powers, what Mueller can do, what he can't do. Because I think the questions that the New York Times released that Mueller wants to ask him were things like, what were you thinking about when you fired Comey? It's like, I wouldn't answer that question in a million. I mean, you just plead the fifth on that question because they're trying to prove obstruction of justice when they haven't got the Russian collusion. The guy was sent out there to find Russian collusion, didn't find it, and now he's saying, oh, yeah, but you obstructed justice. I mean, just having him there is an obstruction of justice. You know, yesterday, I did an interview on what's called the Bad Christian podcast. Really great guys. I had a really fun time. I don't usually do these very long form interviews, but I did it with them because I was just really enjoying myself. And they're young guys. And like a lot of the young people I meet when I'm going to colleges, they have been taught that they need to put on a solemn face. It seemed to me, I mean, they were good guys and they were laughing, kidding around and all this, but underneath this, there was a certain guilt about being white, about being male, about being American. And I just think, like, this is what these guys have done. This is what the left does to you. They're in order to distract you from the fact that their entire philosophy is socialist, is about destroying babies, is about like violating basically every commandment to distract you. They make you feel bad about things that you shouldn't feel bad about at all. You should never feel, you know, if you got born, you know, they were asking me if maybe it was, if you had a choice and would you be born white or black? And I thought, yeah, I think most people would be born white. It's probably easier to be a white guy. Hey, you know, it's easier to be an American. It's so much easier to be an American that it transcends everything. You know, thank heavens you weren't born in one of those crap hole countries that Trump was not supposed to talk about. I mean, thank God you were born in a place like this. But, you know, your responsibility, if you have luck in life, is to use your luck to succeed and transcend. And yes, help other people when you can. But your responsibility is not to sit around with a sad face and say, "Oh, I feel so bad that that I was born with some privileges." I think you got lucky. There's no question about it. Thank God, and go about your business. You know, I was thinking about this because of this thing with the Boy Scouts. The Boy Scouts used to be a great organization, and now they've been destroyed by political correctness. They said, we're going to let in girls, and now they're changing their names. There won't be any Boy Scouts. The Boys Club of America already disappeared into the Boys and Girls Club, so there's nowhere, you're supposed to be guilty just for being a boy. Anyway, my point about this really is that all these stories about these scandals are really stories to drive you away from who these people are and what their entire philosophy is. And maybe Trump has done some wrong things. I'm sure he has. And maybe he's, says things he shouldn't say. I'm sure he does. But that doesn't change the fact that their entire philosophy is what it is.